Welcome back or welcome to Morbid Asia, the podcast where I explore Asia's most chilling legends, haunted places, and unsolved mysteries. I'm your host Park, and tonight we're traveling to the bustling streets of Seoul in South Korea. South Korea, also known as the capital of plastic surgery, is a fairly common occurrence of people going under the knife to achieve what society considers a more aesthetically pleasing appearance. Which is why no one batted an eye when a woman in her late 20s, who was already considered beautiful by those around her, decided to further enhance her appearance through cosmetic surgery. But what happened next would turn her into one of South Korea's most infamous urban legends. No matter how experienced a surgeon is, or how safe and reputable the hospitals were, undergoing a surgery always carries risk. Such was the case for this once beautiful woman who, according to the legend, had her face so badly botched that it was no longer recognizable. The beauty she had spent so much time and money chasing was gone, and in its place was a face she could not accept. Unable to bear the shame, she withdrew from the society completely. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months. She stopped seeing friends, stopped speaking to her family, and stopped leaving her house. The only thing she couldn't escape was her reflection. Eventually, she became obsessed with one question. Am I beautiful? The question consumed her and would eventually consume everyone else around her as well. On one random night, she suddenly disappeared. No note, no explanation, just gone. And that is supposedly when sightings began. At first, the reports sounded almost identical. People walking home alone late at night would notice a woman standing at the edge of the dark street, sometimes under a flickering street lamp, sometimes near an alleyway, sometimes just behind them. Witnesses described her as unusually still. She wore a long coat, and her long dark hair hung over her shoulders. Covering the lower half of her face was a bright red surgical mask. Now, if you've been to Korea or anywhere in East Asia, you'll know that seeing someone wearing a mask is not unusual. Long before masks became common worldwide due to the COVID pandemic, many Koreans wore them for health reasons, allergies, or simply because they didn't want to be recognized. So, at first, nothing about her seemed particularly strange, until she started speaking. The woman would approach a lone pedestrian and ask a simple question. Am I pretty? It's an odd question to be asked by a random stranger you have never met before, but it's not necessarily a frightening one either. Most people caught off guard would nervously answer, yes, and that was exactly what she wanted to hear. The woman would slowly reach for her mask, then pull it away. Beneath it was a face twisted by surgery. Some versions describe her surgery mishap as a mouth being cut wide open from ear to ear, while others say her jaw was grotesquely misshapen, while others claim portions of her face appeared melted or stitched together. Whatever the detail was, every witness agreed on one thing. The sight was horrifying. The woman would then ask her second question. What about now? Imagine being alone on a dark street, your heart racing, your brain desperately trying to process what you're seeing, and someone is waiting for your answer. If the victim answered no, the legends say she would become enraged, pulling out a knife, scissors, or a surgical instrument, depending on the version of the story. The victim body will later be discovered nearby, perhaps be never found at all. But strangely, saying yes wasn't much better either, because saying so would make her believe that they were mocking her. If they responded with nothing in return, she would think that the victim deemed her as uglier than them. and greatly offended by this, she would pick up her weapon and create a nasty slash, a carve of a smile across the victim's face, from ear to ear, making them resemble her so that she wouldn't be the only one living with a disfigured face forever. Everyone that has encountered her either ended up missing, found dead, or is left with a permanent disfigurement, constantly reminding them of the encounter. Which is what makes the story so scary, because if you come across her, there's no correct answer to escape her wrath. No matter what you say, no matter what choices you make, you always lose. However, over time, some people have managed to find a loophole to help them escape from the Red Masked Lady. As the story spread across schools and neighborhoods, children and neighbors began to share survival strategies. One popular method was to confuse her. When she asked if she was pretty, instead of giving her a yes or no answer, you would simply reply, average. Not pretty, not ugly, just average. This unexpected answer would supposedly confuse her long enough for you to run away. Another way you can confuse her would be to ask her the exact question back. Am I pretty? And while she's busy thinking of an answer, you can make a quick escape. Of course, whether any of these methods actually work depends on which version of the legend that you're hearing. And that's one of the fascinating things about urban legends. They evolve. Every generation adds something new. Every storyteller changes a detail. The most recent addition to the Red Masked Lady was her attacks on victims that varied depending on their blood type. Now, if you knew anything about trends in Korea, a couple years ago, asking one about their blood type was a very common and popular question. Based on the information of your blood type alone, your personality, weaknesses, strengths, and compatibility can be determined based on the analyzations that others have made on online forums or even on published books of that said blood type. Thus, the addition of the legend was made regarding her response that is based on the victim's blood type. If the victim's blood type was of A, she would only give them a small slash on their cheek. If their blood type was B, she would give a deeper, bigger slash on their cheek. If their blood was an AB type, she would give a slash right up to the corner of their mouth. But if their blood type was an O, she would carve a big smile all the way from their mouth to their ears. No one really knew why she ranked the severity of her actions based on one's blood type in this certain order. Some say that the surgeon that botched her face had an O blood type, which would explain her great dislike for the type, while others claim that she herself was of an A blood type, and thus was much more lenient towards those who shared the same type. No one knows where the story of the Red Masked Lady has originated from. Some of the earliest encounters dates back to the late 1970s and 1980s, where the legend has exploded in popularity. During this time, South Korea was changing rapidly, both economically and society-wise. Cities were expanding, modern beauty standards were becoming increasingly important, cosmetic surgery was becoming more accessible, and with that came a growing anxiety about appearance. Many researchers believe that the legend acted as a cautionary tale, a warning about vanity, about becoming obsessed with beauty, and about pursuing perfection at any cost. The Red Masked Lady became the physical embodiment of those fears, not a monster born from darkness, from a person destroyed by society's expectations. And maybe that's the reason why this legend continues to resonate today. Because despite how ridiculous some parts of the legend sounded, the underlying fear remains familiar. The fear of not being attractive enough, the fear of being judged, the fear of never feeling satisfied with how we look, the fear that no matter how much we change ourselves, it will never be enough. And those fears are very real and can consume a person wholly, which is perhaps why the story refuses to die. And of course, there are also those who insist the sightings were real. This wasn't just a cautionary tale made up to warn people of the dark side of a very fast developing society that is South Korea. And over the years, countless people claim to have seen strange women sharing the matching description. Some say she appeared near schools, others say they encountered her in subway stations. A few even claim she wandered residential neighborhoods late at night. But as with most urban legends, no evidence was ever really found. No police reports, no photographs, or verified victims. Only stories that were shared through words of mouth. Stories passed from friends to friends, parents to child, student to student. And yet somehow that's all it takes, because legends aren't kept alive by evidence. They're kept alive by fear. Even today, if you mention the Red Mask Lady to many Koreans, chances are they'll recognize the story immediately. Maybe they heard it from their friends, siblings, their parents, or late-night television specials. Or maybe even from podcasts like this one. And who knows? Perhaps somewhere in Seoul tonight, someone's walking home alone. The streets are quiet. The last train has left. Cold breeze drifts through the empty alley. They then notice a woman standing beneath a street lamp. Long dark hair, a red mask, watching, waiting. As they approach, she tilts her head slightly and asks a simple question. The question that has terrified generations. Am I pretty? Thank you for listening to Morbid Asia. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast and join me next time as we uncover another haunted places, unsolved mysteries, and chilling legends from somewhere across Asia. Until then, stay curious and maybe avoid answering questions from strangers on dark streets.